Welcome to the Wellness Quacks. I'm Dr. Dylan Clark.
And I'm Dr. Austin Clark.
Your local chiropractors here in Colorado Springs.
Colorado.
I love Colorado.
This place is beautiful. It's the best.
This is going to be today's news, even though you might not get it today.
New news!
New news!
Thank you,
That's a rip.
Jason and Travis Kelsey. We're going over the news and what is popular in reporting in mainstream media, what you need to know, and a different take and a holistic approach on how to be healthy and stay healthy in spite of what professionals or
what the guidelines are.
or what the media says. If you still trust them, hey, good for you. This is another source of information so you can stay healthy and your family can stay healthy.
Yeah, can we touch base on that real quick?
On what?
I think it's funny that people kind of blame Trump, but even after he's been out of office for exposing the mainstream media, they've been doing a fine job by themselves without having him in the media of disproving themselves. Like,
whether you love him or hate him, what I miss is he's like, "You're fake news."
Yeah, fake news.
You're fake news. Like, I love that.
Not true.
And where he would just move on, like, that's a terrible question, which I agree with. It was a dumb question.
Toodaloo, kangaroo.
We ask Biden hard questions. You ask him what kind of ice cream flavor he likes.
Yeah.
That's not a hard question.
Hey, that's what you do for dementia patients.
For the record, that is a hard question. Dutch chocolate or vanilla with toppings, I don't know. Bluebell.
Dutch chocolate.
Bluebell.
Dutch chocolate.
Oh, gross. You spit all over me.
I tried to give
That's
it in.
Staying in. Also, shout out to 719 Lending, as always. Appreciate them.
For all your lending needs.
I think they do all kinds of lending.
They do.
Yeah.
Anyways, what do you want to get into?
All right.
Which bit of news do you want to get into?
Every time it's an election year, crap goes down. Last time was the coronavirus. We did a show on the coronavirus, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. Might have been a year ago.
Coronavirus, man-made, for sure.
Yep.
Dangerous.
For sure.
For sure. Vaccine for it, not
Even
much
more
better.
dangerous.
Correct. Yeah.
I would argue that it's more dangerous
Yeah.
than the virus, which is man-made itself.
Right. All of it is man-made. The reason why I'm bringing this up and why we're going over it today, not only is it in the news today, what's today? March something?
Today's March
6th, 7th, 8th, 6th?
7th. 3-7.
March the 7th. You'll be seeing this later, but March the 7th, 2024, election year. And on election years, goofy things happen.
Always.
Especially by government officials. If you still trust
Government
officials,
agencies, actually.
If you still trust the government, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't understand how
if it's
COVID-19 did not expose
yeah.
how corrupt the FDA and the CDC really are.
Truly are.
And how the government officials are in bed with them as well. I don't know what else it would take to expose that.
We don't have this article out here right now, but it's something that I was for sure going to bring up, and especially since we're talking about the government right now. This is hilarious. Last week on the Senate floor, it was brought to their attention that they're actually already putting vaccines into lettuce, tomatoes, and beef. Did you watch that video that I posted?
I watched some of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely
insane, because they're like, well, should we try to protect the consumers or let this happen? Because how do you correct the dosage? It's like, wait. So you're telling me you're already been doing this, which furthermore, just the moment you start going down any one of these rabbit holes, I feel like the deeper you get, the more the tinfoil is just like, I actually need like a Faraday cage. Because really what they're trying to do to all of us.
They want to take away individual rights and responsibilities and force you to do their agenda or what they think is best for you. This is kind of what I want to start with, is that whole idea.
Thank you.
Because when I was a boy, I believe the vaccine schedule was either, by the time you're 18, it was either 13 or 17.
24.
Vaccines that was recommended that you should get. There's not more diseases in the world today, arguably, than there was when I was a kid, and we were finding the mortality rate.
Well, that actually might not be true.
Well, because they keep making them. Wow, look at this new batch. I made a new concoction. There was a great Saturday Night Live where they were talking about making a vaccine. It was great, dude. They had a blender, and they're like, we're going to eat some eggs. And they throw eggs in there. And then they're like, we need the virus. And the guy sneezes inside of the blender. And so they're like, oh, we need some mercury. So they took a thermometer and broke it and dumped it in there.
Pfizer allowed them to do that?
This was probably before Pfizer actually owned it. And and when SNL was still funny.
So the 80s.
When the vaccine schedule was only
that's crazy.
Whatever, 15, 17. Now the vaccine schedule, they just included COVID-19, I believe, in the vaccine schedule. So
yes,
it was 72, so I think it's 76?
Yeah.
Or 78 now? For a recommended vaccine schedule from a time a kid is born to 18. That's never been researched. It's never been studied. It's never been looked at. And they also have never done a study where they do them in conjunction with each other to look at populations with. There's never been a true double-blind placebo trial or study.
Everything, and I love this. I love this analogy.
There hasn't been
what
one.
They've done is they've taken two study groups, and I'm going to use alcohol as the example. Because it's as such. They're like, hey, this group is drunk, and they get drunk off of gin, tequila, and ale. But this group, they also got drunk off of gin and tequila. So guess what? There's no difference. That's what they've done for your vaccine studies. If they've been like, oh, well, these kids actually have the same rate of autism because they've actually gotten these vaccines, but these kids only got these vaccines. They had one less. So guess what?
And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it's in the news. We're going to read through this article, the one about how they're pitting
Tennessee.
Here you go, Tennessee. So this is
You're
Tennessee.
the only 10 I see.
Okay.
This isn't awkward.
I work out. Brotherly love? You can love your brother, just don't love your brother.
Okay, Philadelphia.
Okay. All right. Gail Bourne this is Tennessee vaccine law pits parental rights against public health. This is super important.
What's the date on that?
March 7th, 2024.
So that's today, people.
Yeah, that's today. Hot off the press. Isn't that what Rush Limbaugh used to say?
I had a macroeconomics teacher that he would do that in his macro lessons.
Yeah.
And when I took him when Obama was in office, and he was like, here's applied economics right here, right now. And he used Keynesian theory, how when Obama had dumped more money into the economy, and he goes, what is this going to look like, you guys? And he's like, my forecast for today.
Was it the stupid cash for clunkers?
Yep.
That was such a dumb program.
He's like,
and it didn't work. And they're like, I can't believe it didn't work.
It's crazy. Inflation went higher.
They're selling cars for more money now. This really helped the consumer. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
What is that? There's a guy, his name's Tim.
Ballard?
No.
Tebow.
Who can take your money? The government. The government can. It's great. I'll see if I can link it. See if I can. It's great. All right, here we go. Gail Bourne has fostered more than 300 children in Springfield, Tennessee. She's cared for kids who have rarely seen a doctor, which there's a great book. It's Raising Healthy Children in Spite of Your Doctor. I think it was what it's called. Basically, it's the same idea. The more you keep them away from the doctor, if there's no major problems, the better. Again, I gave a disclaimer. There's a disclaimer on our show.
Yeah, but at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Kids so neglected that they cannot speak. Such children are now even more vulnerable because of a lot. So, the way they even phrase this, she's cared for kids who have rarely seen a doctor. Kids so neglected they cannot speak. Such children are now even more vulnerable because of a law Tennessee passed last year that requires the direct consent of birth parents or legal guardians for every routine childhood vaccine.
Wait,
what?
The birth parents?
Or the legal guardian has to give permission in order to have some kind of medicated course of action?
Is she
and
not
they're
now
saying
the
it like
foster
it's
care
a bad thing. I shouldn't yell this close to my microphone. I'm sorry, but they're saying it like it's a bad thing.
I don't know. I kind of want to move it closer to you as you do that.
God, it's crazy. Foster parents, social workers, and other caregivers cannot provide permission. if they're a permanent foster parent, I think they still can, is what this is. But you're right. A social worker should not have that right. Other caregivers should not have that right. A caregiver is like, if I drop my parents off at someone who takes care of my parents. If I drop my children off with someone who's taking care of them, they should not have the right to do medical intervention for my children. The fact that this is even controversial and they're stating it like that, to me is insane.
Well,
we are taking away,
you're right,
culturally, the responsibility of parents and trying to shovel it off on everyone else instead of putting it on the shoulders of the parents, whose responsibility it is. That's not controversial. It's crazy to think of it any other way. In January, anything else you want to say?
I've got lots of thoughts about that. Like, getting back to the beginning of it and the premise of your responsibilities and what the government is trying to do. Once again, if you're a social worker and you're listening to us, sorry, we do love you as a person, but your job is you are trying to enforce social law. So what the government thinks should be done.
And in some cases, again, I think reasonable things are good, but they are taking it to an extreme, and there's no way to bring the pendulum back.
Right.
You do not have rights as a parent once the government gets involved. That's the issue that I have.
Same.
That's the problem that I have. If there's a kid being abused or physically, sexually, emotionally, mentally, whatever, man, I get it. There needs to be help. I'm not anti that. Okay?
Just so we're clear.
To be very clear about that.
There needs to be a system for that, to take care of those.
And what I will say, and this is coming from personal experience, my wife and I were investigated when my little girl was, I think, 2 or 3 months. She was not gaining weight very fast. And so we were accused of failure to thrive, and we were accused of abuse to my daughter. And they almost took my daughter out of our home, and we had like a 6-month investigation, and they didn't find anything, and it costed me money to prove over and repetitively that A, I'm a good parent, I'm taking good care of my daughter, and that she's healthy and okay. All of those things. We had to prove that over and over and over again to the government. Do we get reimbursed for that? And that is not atypical. In other words, it happens frequently in this program. So that's the issue that I have. And the more you keep taking the responsibility off of the parents and you start saying, well, other people should have rights. It takes a village to raise a child. It is my child. It is my responsibility. It is not yours. It is mine. When I stand before God, it is not going to be you standing there and you being judged for how my child was treated and raised. It is my responsibility.
Yeah.
All right. In January, took a foster baby born extremely premature, just over 2 pounds. So this is very, very small child, to her first doctor's appointment. The health provider said that without the consent of the child's mother, they could not vaccinate her against diseases like pneumonia, hepatitis B, and polio.
Holy cow.
I am so glad that they used those 3 vaccines as the example.
Holy cow.
I'm so happy about that.
Wait, so you want to vaccinate a 2-pound baby?
Yeah. Against what, though? Like, not only do they want to vaccinate a 2-pound baby, which is insane.
That's nuts.
They don't have an immune system, but hey, let's inject him with this stuff. I can't figure out why he's got eczema. I don't know why he's got gut issues.
I love it when you do that voice.
He just is genetically deficient. He's a preemie, so he has autoimmune disorders. You're right. There's no correlation at all.
Yeah.
Like, that's how insane this is. Again, I'm going over this because they keep shoving it down our throat.
Oh, man.
You want me to stop talking about vaccines?
I don't feel
Stop shoving it down our throat, and I can talk about other things.
Oh, man. My stomach, I don't feel so good. That's sickening.
I know. 2 months, dude. If I saw that, I would probably puke in a hospital. I'm not kidding. I'd be so sick.
I would be.
2 months, and you want to... And not only is it that insane, they don't have an immune system, a very good one yet, but pneumonia? Hepatitis B?
Hey, how do you get hepatitis B, Dr. Dillon?
In a civilized country like ours,
Uh-huh.
through dirty needles and sexual contact.
That baby's totally having sex. No, actually, I lied. That baby's totally doing drugs.
Shooting something up, right?
Getting some hair on.
Yeah. And polio?
How do you get polio?
I don't want to talk about it, man. Can we just move on? It's the three most ridiculous vaccines, especially for
a developed country.
Yes, a developed country, and the most ridiculous vaccine to give a kid, especially a preemie.
Especially a 2-pound baby, where, hey, the main consumption of nutrients for that baby right now, well, it's adopted, right? It's fostered. Is what's going on here? Correct?
Yeah.
So the baby's adopted and fostered. Obviously, the most ideal situation is that it's getting breastfed, but if not, is there something in the formula that would give that child polio, Hep B, and or pneumonia? And how do you vaccinate against pneumonia? Like, I don't.
Well, you have bacterial things that cause pneumonia.
Okay.
Yeah.
As if that baby's lungs isn't already like striving right now to keep it alive.
And how many studies have they done where they've actually done this to a preemie? Zero.
Guaranteed.
Zero.
Or
so
if they have done it,
the most researched thing in the world, right?
If they have done it, I guarantee you it's hidden in some archive because they did not like the results.
Well, that's also true. Also very, very true.
If you think I'm lying about that, go check out I Can.
Here's the greatest thing. The mother hasn't been located, so a social worker is now seeking a court order to permit immunizations. We're just waiting, Bourne said. Our hands are tied.
Keep them tied. Look at me. I'm the captain now. Keep them tied.
Your hands are tied? Like that's the most pressing issue in this child's life is this. Gosh. Crazy. Tennessee's law has also stymied grandmothers and other caregivers who accompany children to routine appointments when parents are at work. In drug and alcohol, they should be tied. They aren't the parents.
Yeah.
They aren't the ones responsible. Now, a good grandparent is going to influence because they're going to talk about the things that they've learned. They've already raised their kids, and they're going to learn, hey, this is what kind of worked, this is what didn't work. And if you're a good kid and your parents are good, you're going to listen. The family dynamic should still be intact if we're actually promoting good values for society.
Exactly.
Now, there are some crazy parents, I get it.
No, but once again, I'm going to get into this just a little bit, because in school, how much health information do you actually learn in school? Because the education system, once again, as designed and
7 servings of carbs a day, bro.
100%.
Yeah, it's good for you. Plus, what?
But what's taught to you in school as far as like health and health information, none of the basic necessities of how do you understand, how do you have a conversation, and how do you communicate that with the doctor. We still continue to promote and push this ideology of your doctor knows absolutely everything. How many doctors have encountered a 2-pound baby? Yeah. How many primary care physicians have encountered that? How many of them know the data, and how many people know how to ask the questions of, hey, have they actually ever done a study for a 2-pound baby? Have they ever actually done a study? Like, what does that look like? So asking the questions and being and having the intellect is one thing that they can keep and promoting the
Well, you're talking about education,
suppression.
Public education. We could spend a whole day on that in relation to health.
Right.
Because they don't even... I mean, you can graduate high school and not know how to do multiplication.
Right.
You can graduate. Oh, what does that have to do with this? Everything, man. That is a logical format that helps your brain develop logical thinking and reasoning. You have people graduating who can't even read what I am reading right now and comprehend
and understand it.
A basic news article.
Right. And they're voting.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a problem.
But in all seriousness, like you don't get the health information, and then you're now put into situations in which you don't even know how to question that, and then you're removing the rights and responsibilities of parents who are probably capable, or if they're not, you're removing the people that should be able to help them out ethically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so let's just keep reading, because they all, and in order to pass laws, which country in the world has the most laws on the book?
United States.
United States. They use extreme examples like this to pass a law.
Yeah.
Which also drives me crazy, because it's like, okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to curb the people who are good parents, and you're going to create laws that give other people parental rights because you're using an extreme example.
Yeah.
And then my parents can take my kids and go make decisions for them because you're using an extreme example. It's how they do it's how they pass things.
It's
like,
an
in that
emotional
situation, it
approach
should
to
be
it,
good.
yeah.
So they get you thinking like, yeah, that's bad. Then they make the law, and then guess what? And they're like, well, you won't use the law that way.
That's a lie.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go, because here comes the extreme example. Tennessee's law has also stymied grandmothers and other caregivers who accompany children to routine appointments when parents are at work, in drug and alcohol rehabilitation clinics. What did they just do? They just undermined all parents. Because if they pass a law that changes this, how did they do it? Well, these are parents who are in drug and alcohol rehabilitation.
You got to love the pacing of that, too, because they started off like, if they're at work, and then the very next thing is drug and alcohol clinics. Like, what?
Or otherwise unavailable. What a terribly written thing. You should read this and immediately be like, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
This is so dumb. The law claims to give parents back the right to make medical decisions for their children. No, that's the way it should be.
Right,
Amy Maxman for KFF Health News. What they want to do is they want to strip that right from parents. And we should be able to spread the responsibility among other people is what we should be able to do. No, you shouldn't. It falls on the parents. Okay, framed in the rhetoric of choice and consent, it is one of more than a dozen recent and pending pieces of legislation nationwide that pit parental freedom against community and children's health. I'm like, it makes me boil even thinking about that. It is not the community's responsibility. We have individual rights, and then as a parent, I have the rights over my child. My older brother, here's an example of what I'm talking about. Same idea. My older brother homeschools his children. And recently, and then his children, because he's a tax-paying individual, he uses the school for extracurricular activities like, I don't know, band and choir or maybe acting. I don't know.
Yeah.
His daughter is in some stuff. Apparently, every 3 unexcused tardies equals an absence. And they just gave him a letter that states your daughter is in danger of having 10 absences for the entire school year. And I think she's at 6 is where she's at. So they send out this automatic letter and they threatened him and said, if you do this, we will call Child Protective Services and have the cops come and check on your home. What?
That makes so much sense.
This is the same idea, though, where Big Brother has those kinds of rights. When did it flip-flop? When did this happen? And how come more people are not enraged? I do not know.
You're setting me down a rabbit hole tonight.
How parents are not enraged that people even think that this is okay. This is where the public square and squashing these opinions and exposing them is super important. But all you keep hearing is this kind of garbage all the time. And this is why we're here. It's why you need to like, share, and subscribe and send this to your friends, because this is the crap that keeps getting pushed out. I don't necessarily want your blood to boil where you want to get violent. What I want you to do is start raising your voice and telling people, no, this is ridiculous.
You need to understand the rhetoric and how disgusting this is, because this will continually get perpetuated as this gets more and more accepted and acceptable. That's the way that we lose power.
That's right. Such policies have another effect. They seed doubt about vaccine safety in a climate rife with medical misinformation, which is also BS, because they can sit there and say it again and again, like medical misinformation. No, it's good information. Again, they've never done one study on a group that doesn't have, and the ones that they did, like they did one with the Amish, then they discredited it because it wasn't in a peer-reviewed journal or something like that.
Yeah.
But they never actually discredit the methodology that was used or the results that were found. They never discredit that. They just discredit it wasn't in our journal. It wasn't in the journal that we want done, because they won't accept it. That's why. In other words, like a journal's like, hey man, this is too much. This is going to bring too much heat to our journal. That's not what we want, so they don't accept it.
Who funds the journals?
And you also have funders of the journals.
Yep.
So those two things are going to keep you out of a journal. And when you do a study like that, and like that's what's got to be, like you have to understand it's never been done. It hasn't been done ever, and they keep increasing the vaccine schedule. You're going to tell me there's no associated problems with it? Let me tell you there is. There's a website called VAERS. VAERS exists because the government decided to protect vaccine manufacturers because it's so good for our health that we need to make sure that they're not held responsible.
As they were heading to be bankrupt.
That's exactly. They're heading to bankruptcy because of the problems that it caused.
Yeah.
So then they got in some politicians' pockets. This is real. Look it up. They got in politicians' pockets. They passed this law, and now you can't sue the vaccine manufacturer. You can sue any other medication for adverse effects, but you can't for vaccines because the idea behind it is so wholesome and it helps so many people. But when it's your kid, then suddenly it's not, and you can't sue them. All you can get is government compensation through the VAERS if they think that it's actually verified, and then it's also limited. It's not it won't compensate for all the crap that you're going to have to deal with in your life.
Well, even submitting to VAERS is a headache in and of itself because, like, not only do you have to pay the money for you to submit it to VAERS, but then you also have to have a doctor that validates that.
Well, I think you can submit anything on VAERS, but whether you're going to be compensated or whether it's going to be validated, that, like, good luck.
Yeah, because then you have a governmental representative that's then going to sue the government for you to get paid. And it's like, oh yeah, good luck with that.
It's not objective, people. That's what you have to understand. Whether you're pro-vaccine, like even if you're pro-vaccine, it's not objective. It's not objective in that, like, okay, I had a patient who got shingles, or if it was the shingles vaccine, but her arm, she started
Are we talking about the achy arm that
it was
thought that was you? Yeah, it was definitely shingles.
Yeah, the shingles vaccine is excruciating. It was achy. She got a fever. It was redness around the site. And she was like 3 days of complete misery. I know for a fact it wasn't reported. And initially, the doctor tried, because I sent her to urgent care and then she went to go see her primary, tried saying that it wasn't the vaccine.
That's crazy how that happened immediately.
Yeah, it happens
and it's
all
on
the
the
time.
same arm, and it's in this, like,
So
all of these things
it's
don't add up.
dogmatic. It's dogmatic, and you can't say that it's not. It is dogmatic. It's a dogmatic thinking. You're not allowed to question it. You're not allowed, and I don't mean question as in like I'm a skeptic, and I just mean like, hey, can I ask these questions about this? I think these are legitimate questions that that deserve some answers. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And some of those legitimate questions are, hey, you just increased it again. Now it's way over 70 that you're recommending. You're going to tell me that there's no adverse effects. So then they came out with this other ridiculous article that I was going to try and get to today, but we don't have time. It's about some guy that apparently got over 200 COVID shots, and he's just fine.
217.
Yeah, let's follow up with him in 5 years. All right. The trend has exploded as politicians and social media influencers make false claims about risks, despite studies showing otherwise. And yet she doesn't link or show anything. Which, again, if I just keep telling you and feeding you the same BS, then you're going to believe it too. But she doesn't actually explain it in this article. Doctors traditionally give caregivers vaccine information and get their permission before delivering more than a dozen childhood immunizations. This is also funny to me. Listen to this. Doctors traditionally give caregivers vaccine information and get their permission before delivering more than a dozen childhood immunizations that defend against measles, polio, and other debilitating diseases. Yeah,
How debilitating is measles?
Let's just keep shooting them up. Measles is truly dangerous to a pregnant woman.
Child, though, totally needs it.
But because we've made so much fear around it,
oh yeah,
you hear measles, it's like, dude, if I get measles, I'm going to die. You're not.
You're not.
You're not. More than likely. But now Tennessee's law demands that birth parents attend routine appointments and sign consent forms for every vaccine given over 2 or more years. So I don't know what that means for under. The forms could have a chilling effect, said Dr. Jason Young, a Memphis pediatrician and past president of the Tennessee chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. People who promote parental rights on vaccine tend to downplay the rights of children, said Doris Reese, a vaccine policy researcher at the California Law of San Francisco.
That's because
They don't have rights.
They don't. I'm sorry.
You're a child, man. For the first 18 years of your life, your mind is being formed and created, and it's your parents' job, and it's a heavy job. And I mean this, I'm a Christian, okay? As a Christian, I believe it is not only your God-given right, but it's also your God-given responsibility to make sure that you are doing that and doing that to the best of your ability. You will be held accountable, is what I'm saying, before God about how you raised your child and how and what you taught them and what values you instilled into them.
Absolutely. You are your child's best advocate. And if you remove that, who's going to advocate for them? And even then, putting that for the child, it's like you don't have the intellect, you don't have the wherewithal to be able to know what is the best choice for me, which is why we are given parents.
Yeah.
But no, put that into Big Brother's hands.
Yeah.
Let's do that. That'll work out best, right?
Like this lady,
government's never done anything
this
wrong.
lady is scary. People who promote parental rights on vaccines tend to downplay the rights of children. I'm the parent, man. I have the rights. Now, as a good parent, I give them latitude so that they can start experiencing and making choices on their own, and that starts happening, absolutely. But don't quit making laws on extreme examples. What it does, it ties your hands as the parent. That's what it does.
Yeah.
These people are crazy. Like, they're not good, and they're in positions of power that do try to keep pushing these types of programs forward that tie your hands as parents. No, you're the parent. If your child is injured in any way, whether from a vaccine or
anything,
let's say they're on their bike and they're injured. Let's say I have a friend of mine, her son just got in a motorcycle accident, and the kid, if he pulls through, God willing, is going to have some serious neurological defects in his life. Who's going to take care of him? The family is.
I thought Big Brother. I mean, that's what they do, right?
No.
They take care of people.
No. You're the one who has to live with the consequences. You have to take care of it. If something happens with your child, it's on you. You're the one who has to do it. Let that sink deep into your soul, because when they want to change laws and rights like this, you're the one who has to live with it, and you have to deal. So they're going to make a decision for you. It does have the potential to cause long-term effects. Make no mistake about it.
And then you're the one
the one who has to deal with it.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. The kids don't have rights. I'm the one who has the rights, because I'm the one who's going to have to deal with it. That's why it's your responsibility, because you're the one who's going to have to deal with it. Now, then she goes on. Now she's going to make her case, again, with no research at all or no study. They're going to claim studies, but they don't ever actually show it. And they're going to talk about medical misinformation, but they don't actually ever show it on their side of things. Drop in routine vaccine rates. I can't believe that this is the crap that they keep pushing. It's not even written well. Misinformation coupled with a parental rights movement that shifts decision-making away from public health expertise has contributed to the lowest childhood vaccine rates in decades.
Thank the Lord. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yes, they are. No, but
how often have public experts been wrong? And you could say, okay, well, using that logic, well, parents have been wrong, but we're the ones who have to live with the consequences.
Once again.
So you can't make decisions for my kid, and every person is different. There is now more research, and there's blood tests that actually show if you are going to have an adverse or likely to have an adverse reaction to vaccines. Do the public experts ever talk about that?
Do they ever recommend that?
I mean, I do, and I'm a public expert.
Oh, that's
right?
true. Look at me.
Oh, tie on. Sorry. Yeah. This year, legislators in Arizona, Iowa, and West Virginia, God bless West Virginia, have introduced related consent bills. A Parents' Bill of Rights amendment in Oklahoma seeks to ensure that parents know they can exempt their child from school vaccine mandates, along with lessons on sex education and AIDS. In Florida, the state's Surgeon General recently defined guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention by telling parents they could send unvaccinated children to school during a measles outbreak. Yeah, actually, because I want my kid to get measles.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're healthier. Well, I mean, they're getting a weird shedded version of the virus, but still, I mean, they're actually going to develop natural immunity. Virginia.
Yeah, but what blows my mind, Austin, is that they even have to make a Bill of Rights for parents. Like, that's crazy to me.
I understand that, absolutely. But given the nature of where our country is at right now, you absolutely have to.
But this is the problem of our country right now, is that this is common sense. Like, this is common sense. And the fact that we're going to give you your rights back. No, those are my God-given rights. You're not giving them back. They are mine.
Correct.
As a born individual, I have them. As having children and having offspring, it is my right, my duty, and my responsibility. Mm-hmm. I don't need your little pen to stroke and be like, I give you permission, my little peasants and people. You may now have your rights back. Like, no. That's not how this works. I'm thankful that they've done it too, for the record. Like, I am thankful. It's like, okay. The fact that they have to do it, I think, is the main problem. And the fact that they're slanting this as a bad thing. Like,
that's the other interesting part.
This Amy Maxman, dude, she wants to control your kids. She advocates that the government knows best and that it's the same idea. Oh, here you go, dude. This is it. I serve a lot of veterans. They get mad at the VA because the VA will only approve a certain amount of treatments or the delay in the VA for treatment. I think the doctors actually they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job. Mm-hmm. I think they care about the veterans. I've met with some of the docs there, and I think they genuinely care, and they're trying to do their best. But they have parameters, and everything has to be spelled out, and they can't give the care that sometimes they want to give or the care that they can give. For example, I can only give care based off of pain in my office. Okay?
Not function?
Not function. Function's important. I have to report function.
But it's only for pain.
But it's only for pain. The treatment's only for pain. You're only going to get what the VA is willing to give. So that's going to be your standard. And I haven't heard a lot of praise from veterans about what the VA gives them as far as care is concerned. If your standard is this, and that's what your expectation is, that's what this woman is advocating for. The highest quality of care that we want to give you is what the government standards say is good or bad. That's what you want? That's what you want for your kid?
And that standard can be bought.
By and large, parents take care of their kids and they love them. Yeah, and the standard can be bought. Yeah.
Like that's the clear cut answer to this because every politician has been bought and paid for. And so they're cutting the standard for what you should expect as an individual because you shouldn't expect anything from them because they should tell you everything that you should get.
Yeah. And then it becomes like it's what's best for the community.
And then 10, 15 years down the road, have you been injured by?
Yeah, right. Last year, Mississippi began allowing exemptions from school vaccine requirements for religious reasons because of a lawsuit funded by the Informed Consent Action Network. God bless ICAN.
I can.
God bless them.
Do you know who is behind that?
No.
Del Bigtree.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, that's ICAN. That's his network.
I freaking love Del.
Yep, that's ICAN.
Which is listed as a leading source of anti-vaccine disinformation.
Disinformation?
By the Center for Countering Digital Hate.
I think it's funny.
That doesn't sound like special interest at all.
Yeah. I think it's funny. They present you with more information.
Yeah.
And let you make the decision. The entire purpose behind ICAN is the fact that you should be educated. You need to know really what's out there because what they've done so many times, every single one of the companies, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, every single one of them is they actually, Merck, you name it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
they have all the documentation. They actually have plenty of studies in which they've proven that their stuff doesn't work, and they've hit it. What they've done is they have sued them, gotten the information, and they're like, you read it, make the decision for yourself. How dare you have your own informed consent? How dare you actually know what you're doing for yourself and your child? You shouldn't be able to do that. I give you the information, nobody else.
ICAN literally is all about information and you making an educated choice. So, and the Center for Countering Digital Hate, I don't know much about them, but just the fact, like, the Center for Countering, like, this is where it goes against, in my opinion, the First Amendment. You have the right to say what you want. If you want to be inflammatory, you have the right to not listen to that individual. And a person who's, like, policing what you say, A digital hate? Like, you're going to say ICANN's a digital hate?
But how can you even say that they're a digital hate? Like, that makes no sense.
So then she's going to keep making her posts. Again, this is one of the top leading news stories today. That's why I'm doing this. A post on ICANN's website said, "It could not be more proud in Mississippi to restore the right of every parent in this country to have his or her convictions respected and not trampled on by the government."
How hateful is that?
Like,
oh my gosh. That's so hateful.
I want to give monies to ICANN right now. Like, thank you.
ICANN, the Highwire, what those guys are doing is making sure that you're getting your rights given back to you. Making sure that the government doesn't keep overstepping their bounds, because they will.
And what's asinine is how she's spinning this. ICANN's website wrote, "It could not be more proud in Mississippi to restore the right of every parent in this country to have his or her convictions respected and not trampled on by the government." Why does it work for one group of people but not for the other?
Yeah.
How come I can have beliefs or this individual can have that beliefs and I have to respect them, but if I have mine, they can't be respected? And experience also tells me what I've seen with my own eyes, and I can't be respected for what I've actually observed. I have to allow what the government decides and what they say, because they've never done anything corrupt. Newsflash, people, every major problem has been done or promoted, or any major war, any major conflict, any bad thing has been promoted by the government. I just met a person recently. Their mother was a Nazi German. Yeah. And it was interesting because she was like, her mother passed away, and she goes, "Yeah, you can't say anything bad about Hitler in my household because my mother, she thinks all the other stuff was propaganda and it was lies because she was in Nazi Germany. What Nazi Germany said about Hitler and what he did was all good."
I mean,
that's how indoctrinated people get. And so if you don't have the right to question it,
yeah,
that's how messed up you're going to be.
That's how deep it gets.
Even if some bills fail, Reese fears the revived parental rights movement may eventually abolish policies that require routine immunizations to attend school. It is so hard to get a movement to reverse laws that a lawmaker will make. In other words, a lawmaker can make a law like that, and it takes a massive movement to change that. So the fact that it's happened is actually pretty cool, and it says a lot about the real voice of the people. Mm-hmm. Even if some bills fail, Reese fears the revived parental rights movement may eventually abolish policies that require routine immunizations to attend school.
If your faith is so strong in your immunizations, what concern do you have of children that aren't vaccinated going to school?
Yeah.
Just going to put that out there. If you believe so deeply and you're so entrenched in your beliefs that your immunizations function and work.
I mean, it's herd immunity.
Prove to me, once again, if we're going to talk about misinformation, prove to me that herd immunization works.
Herd immunity.
Because your own immune system means nothing.
Herd immunity.
Explain it. Explain it.
Or just show me that it actually works.
Yeah.
At a recent campaign rally, former President Donald Trump.
Because if anything,
this is actually going to make
the herd's going to make everybody else sick. Sorry.
Yeah. This will make me almost. Maybe I'll publish this one now because this will make me want to vote for him more. At a recent campaign rally, former President Donald Trump, "I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate." That's actually smart, and here's why. It is not the government's responsibility to do that. If I'm paying taxes for public education, then I should be able to put my kid in school. Otherwise, give me a voucher of my money back so I can take them the same amount of money that would be spent, and I can put them where I want to be. Yep. Okay, if you're going to take my money
No, that's parental rights, though. You don't get to have those.
The movement dates back to the wake of the 1918 influenza, this is Spanish flu, when some parents pushed back against progressive reforms that required school attendance and prohibited child labor. Since then, tensions between state, again, another extreme example to prove her point. Since then, tensions between state measures and parental freedom have occasionally flared over a variety of issues. Vaccines became a prominent one in 2021 as the movement found common ground with people skeptical of COVID vaccines. A ton of people were, because the research isn't good.
Research wasn't even done.
Yeah. And then, they make us seem like the crazy ones. The parental rights movement didn't start with vaccines.
But hold on. As far as the Spanish flu influenza, what about vaccine mandates? Like, what was so bad about that?
I think they're just using it as an example of parental rights.
So it's crazy. Even in the early 1900s?
They're trying to take away parental rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. The big issue here is parental rights, I think. Yeah. The parental rights movement didn't start with vaccines, Reese said, but the anti-vaccine movement has allied themselves with it and has expanded their reach by riding on its coattails. Again, they're trying to make parental rights seem like a bad thing. All right, this goes on. The whole thing is trash. I like the fact that this is even news to me, or is published or pushed out there and isn't seen as just straight propaganda, blows my mind. This is when lawmakers silence health experts. I don't even want to read this, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is hilarious to me. When lawmakers silence health experts, kind of like what they did during COVID-19, how they silenced doctors. I was not allowed to say what I thought. There was a chiropractor, he just won a case. He was talking about other things you can do to help for COVID-19. They silenced him. The government tried to sue him. He had to pay over $1 million out of his own pocket, and he won because he's allowed to do that as a professional. You're allowed to do that as an American, not just as a professional. You're allowed to speak and say your voice and what you think is true and what you think is wrong. You're allowed to do that. The fact that that's even controversial blows my mind. You have the right to listen or not to listen. If you don't like the guy, you don't have to listen to him. Okay?
It's
period. End of story. So when lawmakers silence health experts, this whole article is just like, it's trash.
It's infuriating.
Yeah, here's the point. You have to get educated, and you have to raise your voice enough so that people like this are drowned out. It takes 3% to be loud in order to change things, and we have to change things.
We have to.
Kids are sicker now than ever before. Anxiety, depression.
All of it is skyrocketing.
Systemic health diseases, autoimmune disorders, they are all higher than they ever have been before. And it's because we keep allowing and listening to voices like this who know nothing about it and then try to take your rights away to do what's best for your child. Okay? Unless you can prove that you're actually harming your child, you have the right to raise them how you think that you... But again, the burden of proof should be on the government. They should have to prove that it's wrong, not just go in there and swoop and do whatever they want to do. Know your rights.
And make sure you're doing whatever you can to maintain your rights. The more that you allow them to just dictate and do whatever it is that they want to do, you need to be able to ask questions and be able to question it. That's the biggest probably takeaway from today is like, yeah, you got to know.
If you want to be a parent, you do have a civic duty. You got to show up to your town halls, and you've got to write letters. You've got to make your voice heard.
Yeah.
And there's good ways to do it, and there's bad ways to do it. Like, you can be obnoxious and then no one wants to listen to you, or you can be very methodical about how you do it. That's why I love ICANN. ICANN does a great job. Mm-hmm. Okay? So support the good people that are out there. If you have any questions about today's episode, feel free to disagree. Man, I'm okay with people who disagree all the time.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. But that's today. Thank you for listening to Wellness Quacks. Keep it quacky. Go quack it up. Have a great day, guys.
Have a great one.
Yeah.